All right. Where is everybody?
I'm here.
I was whipping out some of the old commercials from last year, and I'm like, I'm going to put one of these on the webinar today while we're waiting, just to goof around. That was the commercial from last year. Oh my gosh, what? August of
The
2022
pitch.
or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, right for the pitch. We've come a long way since then, people. We have a lot of new features with personas. We still call them dashboards a year ago.
Yeah. Yep.
So we are back from Build It, and it was quite the venture. Like, that was our first time there, and I don't know about you, Skip, but I feel like we did pretty well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You know, every one of these events that we go to has a different vibe, and I really enjoyed working with the attendees that were there. The conversations we had were really good. You know, there's some of them that we show up and, you know, we have to really almost educate them to what we're trying to do, you know, that they should be having these strategic conversations with their clients. And they're not janitors, you know, that if you work in IT, you can actually, you know, have a positive impact on your clients. And some folks just don't get that.
Yeah. You know, you've been told so long that you have just break fix mentality. You don't have much to offer other than I can fix things. And the thing is, when you have that first chance of success, when you first see that you are able to take things to the next level with a client, when you solve a business problem with technology that first time, all of a sudden you realize, holy crap, I can do so much more. I want to do more of this. This is addicting. This is fun.
It is.
And that's what we need to get more of in our MSPs now.
Yeah. From just a very pure, you know, technology perspective, my aha moment on this, you know, I'm still just full engineering mode. I'm working for an oil and gas company, and we are, you know, doing all sorts of stuff. I have a ridiculous budget available to me. So I'm giddy, you know, with the ability that I have to buy all this stuff. And I'm kind of bleeding edge on some of the wireless stuff. And I remember clearly, I went up to Montana, of all places, and installed this really cool wireless infrastructure. And I'll be completely honest with anybody that asked me about this. I did it more because I could rather than because I saw a need, right? I had the money. I knew how to do it. It was fun. And I rode on the company plane. I mean, there's just lots of, you know, reasons to go do this. But it was a couple of months later that I had an interaction with one of the staff that was up there, and they were so appreciative of what I had done, you know, and I was, to be honest, a little confused. You know, I'm like, really, what were your throughputs? You know, what are the file transfers you're trying to get, you know, back and forth? No, what I did made it so that he could coach his kids' little league team.
Yeah,
because now we'd cut out like a 45-minute commute, morning and evenings, which, you know, an hour and a half to his day. He got off working time to coach the little league team. And that meant the world to him. I was like, whoa, wait, hold on. You mean all my cool technology actually has an impact on your daily life? Really? You know, so that began a decades long journey for me about, hey, this is really cool stuff. Let's do cool things with it.
Yeah, and I think we just got to get back to that. And so this week's topic is asset management. And this is an area where you can get really lost really quickly in operations when there's so much more you can do.
Yes.
You can get to the point where, like, my job is to replace PCs and make sure that uptime is maximized. I'm here to tell you that if that's your attitude going into asset management, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
And there is a right way to do asset management. And the first thing you need to think about in your head is asset management. What is it? Are assets computers? Now, if you think about your personal life, what assets do you have right now? You have a house, you have a business, you have a hand-me-down chandelier. What is it that you have that you can offer the world? Like, what is the asset you're trying to take care of? When you think of assets in that term of wider range of items than just PCs, suddenly you realize that you're just a part of a larger program.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the corporate world, when you said asset management, a lot of eyebrows raised. Say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
context here.
Yes.
In the MSP small business world, when the MSP says asset management, they're talking about PCs, servers, firewalls, assets. What is the life cycle? How often do we return these? In a business, asset management is everything from your financial portfolio all the way down to the mouse you're clicking.
Yep.
And then they have rules that they're living by. And so we've got to think about that in that same terms as that, because that will allow us to put this in a business context. Because right now you're thinking that the most important thing is making sure the 3 years on a PC or a laptop are observed. Why? Because of the warranty. No. You need to think it now in terms of depreciation. Depreciation applies to every asset at a company.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this word is important.
Yep.
Warranties are the only thing that a lot of MSPs care about, and you get caught up in that. And we rant about this all the time, but a lot of you think that warranties are the number one thing. No, the number one thing is profitability at your client.
Yes.
What does this asset have to do with that profitability? Every once in a while, this asset needs to be replaced because it's reached end of life, whether it's the company vehicle or the chair that you're sitting in or the computer in front of you.
Yep.
They all have depreciation values. And the CFO
and that,
really know these things.
Yeah, so that's kind of, here's a polar example. If you have a client, they're into heavy construction, right? That's their business. Those bulldozers and front loaders and whatever they have, sitting in the yard, those are assets. And they look at those, they have to have those, but they have to have those because it makes them money, right? That's what they use to do the work, so someone will send them a check. Now,
yep.
In their office, if you dig into all the details of everything, the chairs that everyone's sitting in are also assets. They're on an asset list somewhere, right? It's probably not in any sort of detail, but again, polar example here. How much are they going to care about a chair versus a bulldozer? Expense aside, right? They're obviously totally different, but do the chairs help them make money? Or does the bulldozer
generate revenue?
So your assets, and you need to find, with your clients, where is that? I mean, it's just a chair, right? It's just a keyboard. It's just a monitor. There may be that level, but what are they going to do with this asset that is going to improve their business and help them, move forward in their goals? That when you can zero in your asset conversations so that they line up with those goals, that's when you're really hitting it. That's when, you've found the right thread and the right conversation. How does it help them?
So for some of you that are more introductory at business out there, there's a third thing I put on the bullet list for today's topic was CAPEX versus OPEX.
Mm-hmm.
These are two terms. Google them, read. Just take 5 minutes of your life and read this. Because when you walk in and you're fighting that uphill battle trying to get your client to buy these assets or maintain these assets, they're putting them in context of the bulldozer.
Yes.
They're like, do I buy myself a new bulldozer or do I buy myself some new PCs? What's the risk here? And in your world, if you're looking through that little straw and you're thinking, this is the most important thing, these clients need to buy these new PCs, otherwise they're going to be old.
Yeah.
And the company's looking at all their assets and thinking, if I buy these 5 new PCs, I'm not going to be able to put that down payment on that new bulldozer, which is going to generate me 10,000 more in revenue next month.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're trying to decide. And you're trying your hardest to convince them not to buy a bulldozer.
That's it. Yeah.
That's how you look. I've been on the other side of the table and I've watched these well-meaning IT professionals vehemently argue for buying a new firewall or a new laptop or a new PC. And the client's like, can I just squeeze another year out of this? Mm-hmm. And because they're looking at a bigger picture. And you said, well, if you want to manage your assets, you've got to buy these things. And they're like, what? Like, you're so out of context. So what we want to do is I want you to get into the game of thinking of CAPEX and OPEX, not thinking of IT assets. So capital expenditures, I was going to look it up on Google here, but I didn't. I believe it's expenditures of an organization dependent on that is fixed assets to help the company grow. So if you basically, the way I used it was, and this is an oversimplification, if you can touch it, it's capital expenditure. And so look around the office next time you're at your client, and you've got this list of IT assets. Now, what percentage of their offices made up, the capital expenditures are made up of those assets that you're bringing to the table? Look at their chairs, look at their cubicles, look at their copy machines, look at their cars, look at everything that's around that office, pens, pencils, all sorts of things. Now look at their operational expenditures. Look at the people they have. Look at who they're employing. Look at what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Can you wrap your head around that context? Probably not. You have to rely on the client to know those things and ask yourself, where do I fit in this asset ecosystem?
Yep.
That's how you properly handle asset management. In corporations, we have entire teams dedicated to asset management. Not just IT asset management. The last large organization I worked at, there was a team of I think 12 just to manage IT assets, and they were part of a larger department managing assets across the organization. There were financial assets, there were physical assets, there were building assets, and there was whole departments based on this.
Right.
But in IT, we tend to hyper focus.
And not everything is going to break down into making money, in some aspects, but keyboards and monitors, right? Is that going to help them? Maybe if it's the engineering group and they need better resolution and, more screen space, maybe there's an argument for that. In other cases, some of it is just normal expenses that go on. But where you can help your clients out is say, hey, these are some expenses you need to do. When's the best time? How's your cash flow looking on this? Do you want to do this as an OPEX expense? Would it help your finances if we shifted this over to some sort of operational expense? And now that cash that we're talking about, they can say, yeah, if we flipped that over, then I would have the cash I need to go out here and buy a new bulldozer. Thank you. You've helped me with my asset management so I can make more money. All right. And we're dealing with keyboards, mice, and monitor, perhaps, right? That is how you can position this to really get the value that your organization can provide highlighted with your clients. Are you following up on the Zoom chats there, Adam?
I'm looking there. I'm like, I can't see anybody talking. Like, I wish it was like Zoom where I could see everybody in one pane.
Yes,
the Zoom does not show you. We could be talking to crickets right now, and we wouldn't know.
And we're still, bear with us, we're still getting this worked out. I saw a message, the Zoom is still waiting to start or something. So if someone's trying to join via Zoom, they're getting the host. Wait for the host message. Hey, there's Richard. He saw, I saw that as well.
There are people out there we don't even know. Hey, Richard.
We will get this all sorted out. Richard, you, by the way, I did follow up, and the meeting deal, I finally quit looking at the back end and opened up a guest browser. And yes, that does pop up as a Google invite, and that could be an issue. So you're on my list to get those things fixed.
No, Paul, Zoom is not a thing. I have not been kicking it up. I changed the link, and I pretty much said I'm done with Zoom. So it's not the cold turkey thing. Do you just kind of like wean it off and have that last cigarette, or do you just say I'm done? And with Zoom, I said I'm done. And but there are things I miss about Zoom. I miss us having the group chat where I could see you all at once. So we've got people on Facebook, and I won't know who all attended each one until I close down the session and actually look. And I wish it would tell us like, hey, we have 60 people watching right now, and here's who they are, so I can say hi.
So, now, if you comment, we see you. So we've got Paul and Richard are in here. We had several of you earlier. Cheryl popped in. So we've got several of you out there, but we don't see anything unless you speak up.
Mike's got to be poking around there somewhere.
That's true. Mike's always lurking.
Mike's always around.
He hasn't said anything yet.
So we're chatty people.
He must be busy.
So asset management wise, I want to really clean this up here because I don't talk about I don't talk about asset management on purpose because everybody's talking about these warranties, and I'm trying to get people to stop thinking about warranties and start thinking about depreciation.
Mhm.
And it's because in IT we're not taught depreciation and we're taught warranties. It becomes part of our vernacular. It's just something that we say all the time. Warranty, warranty, warranty. Is it under warranty? Do I have a warranty? Can I call warranty on that? And I have my whole rant, and Skip and I had a whole podcast on this. Are warranties worth it? And I do not think so. Having worked in a corporation with thousands of PCs and laptops, I don't think they're worth it. Like I never saw the return. And the thing is, everybody's like afraid to do the math on it because you're paying $150 or so per PC. And like someday somebody's going to come in and say, look, this is not worth it.
Yep.
I even saw an argument online the other day about people still use platters in desktops. They're complaining about Windows 11 and disk platters. And I'm like, I was getting rid of platters back in 2010 last time. Hey, George Jones, nice. The platters back in 2010. So 12, almost 13 years ago, last time I looked at a desktop, I remember we made the decision for our department, like we're just going to go SSDs because they're so reliable at the time. Here we are 13 years later and people are complaining about platters in Windows 11. I'm like, I did not know they were even an option anymore. I haven't run a disk-based drive in forever. So, I mean, Skip and I come from the back in the days when you had to do the math on the sectors versus the heads, and you had to figure out the capacity of your hard drive. So, remember those days.
There's a few people. There's not. Mike hadn't chimed in yet, so I don't know. But he's the only one who knows what the IDE code is for a 40 meg drive. Was it 16 or was it 26? That's the trivia for the really old folks out there.
Oh my gosh, I remember doing the pin jumpers.
Yep.
That's what I remember. Master and slave mode. If you messed that up, you lost a drive temporarily. But anyways, asset management, depreciation, budgeting. So when you're talking about asset management with your clients, change your mindset and stop DAST. See, we got your old guys on this call.
There we go. Yep. They're chiming in.
So you got to think in a larger context. Asset management is not IT assets. We are just a part of that. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about warranties, that's risk management. Depreciation is a more succinct way. Educate yourself. Google it. You guys are all great at Google. That's why I'm not going in depth on CAPEX versus OPEX. I'm not going into depth about the depreciation right now. Depreciation is a complex topic. And so, yeah. You want to promote Richard's comment there?
Yeah. Yep.
It is great for budgeting discussion. And that's a once a year item or a once a quarter. Like depending on how your client's paying you, it's great to say, hey, look, just let you know that these assets are depreciating next quarter according to your rules. So if you really want to do something really cool, ask the CFO of this organization you're working for, hey, what's your depreciation for IT assets? And then you use our software. That's why you put that number in, that depreciation number in. Hey, this isn't my number, as I'm telling you. I'm giving you your depreciation. You've already filed with the IRS. You depreciated this asset. We're just saying, like, now's your time to reclaim it. Now you get to buy a new one.
And now a lot of them just take a standard. I think 7 years is the common one for any sort of office stuff. All right. But now you're opening up a conversation. Now hey, we can help you guys manage these assets in a more proactive manner rather than just putting some giant, rubber stamp on it that says, office chairs and PCs are the same thing. Let's see what we can do with this. And when you have those types of conversations, that's your client's arena. They're comfortable with that. All right. And so they can get involved with that.
Now,
when you're talking about something else, when you're talking speeds and feeds and, disks and SSDs, they're not comfortable with that. So let's put this in their comfort zones.
I may be able to beat Skip out here for once on asset depreciation.
Okay.
The longest depreciation cycle of an asset,
right?
I believe was 100 years. on one of my organizations.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what the asset was?
It's got to be land.
Land doesn't depreciate.
I don't know.
Close.
Yeah. All right.
Telephone poles.
Telephone poles. Okay. All right.
So they in their asset management, they had telephone poles that had been out there for that long, which causes a little bit of a headache. And so, when you're thinking like, oh yeah, well, I've got an asset 4 years, it's forever, 5 years. No. Now in the oil and gas, think about some of the things some of those oil rigs they have. How
Yep.
old are some of those pumps?
So I worked with specifically some compressor, very large compressor components that move oil and gas around. And I worked with an organization who was maintaining compressors that were over 100 years old. So, yeah, but they're providing value, right? You can roll in there and say, if you're selling, oil and gas compressors, say, hey, that's really old. You ought to spend, $2 million and buy a new one. And they're like, yeah, it's really old, but it's really working.
It's really working.
Why would they do that? So getting the right context is going to make all the difference.
Yeah. So asset management, this may not have been what you thought we were going to talk about. And that's the point, is I want to talk about actually what asset management is. The vendors, the channel, the IT organizations out there, they want you to think in terms of asset management being the stuff that they're trying to get you to sell. They're trying to get you to resell their stuff. This is going to help your asset management.
Yep.
But when you're talking to your clients are like, you're just a piece. You're just a small piece of this larger puzzle. So you need, as a successful IT provider, to be able to talk to them about putting this asset management topic. This is your piece of the puzzle. And how is it going to fit into the larger piece of asset management at this company? Mm-hmm. How does it fit into their financial portfolio? Which of these assets are generating revenue for them, and which of them are just making things easier? You need to understand that context so that when you come to the table for budget purposes, you can put it into context for them. You say, hey, look, this server over here is what runs all of your queries for your mailers, which you generate a significant portion of your revenue from. I need to replace this. Otherwise, the risk of failure next year is pretty high. Mm-hmm. It's got a RAID array in it that is aging up on 5-6 years. It's still on platters. And we know that the mean time to failure on platters is 5 years. I know this is an important asset to you. It's going to be about $30,000 to replace or whatever it is. And you let them do the calculation. And then they come back to you. You're explaining the risk in terms of their portfolio now. You're now not just saying, oh, this is an old server. This is an old PC. You're now saying this is what the risk is. In fact, if you go to cybersecurity, you'll start learning about ranking risk according to asset type and value and what the impact on the business is. Mm-hmm. And so when you come to the table with asset management in mind, you need to come in terms of context. And the terms that are going to help you there is CAPEX, OPEX, depreciation. These are things you need to be ready to talk about when budgeting. And, you can actually go in and say, hey, you know what? These PCs are all depreciating next year, or these assets in IT are depreciating. However, we've seen a pretty good stability out of that particular GX series of Optiplex. I am willing to increase our OPEX to cover the support on those in case they fail.
Yeah.
This will buy you a year or two of time. It'll increase your risk on assets, but if one of them fails, we can have it replaced in a day.
Yeah.
And so you can let them do that. Now, the great thing is, as I'm sure any of you who have done budgeting before, OPEX, charging for service fees, is way more lucrative than selling a PC.
Absolutely.
So in your clients looking at it as they don't have to buy another asset. Now they get some tax ramifications there if you're talking depreciation, but you're going to be able to give them an opportunity to buy in either or. Service, OPEX, or a CAPEX. What do they want to do? You can cover both. You can shift the risk around. And so you have to determine what's worth it to you.
Now we're throwing a lot of accounting terms out here, and I'm not the accountant, definitely, right? And you don't have to be either. So spend 30 minutes and kind of get familiar with the common, accounting sort of terms so you know what's going on. But the great thing here, and we say this over and over and over, is your clients are the experts in their business. They're the experts in their finances, right? So you don't have to be. You can help them make the decisions that they're already the experts in. And all you have to do is kind of just put, again, the right context. So don't sign up for, unless you have some other need, don't sign up for any accounting classes, right? You don't need to go do that. Just show up with the basic information to begin a conversation.
Yep. And that's how you do asset management. It's like a one-time a year or just a budget cycle thing. And if you load the assets into our tool, we will run the budget for you. Mm-hmm. There will be some messiness to it. That's okay. Embrace the mess. Yes. Use that as a talking point with your client to get to understand what they want to see from a depreciation standpoint, so that when you go to ask for cash, it's due to their requirements, not yours. Yeah. And you could maybe even negotiate through a agreed upon, like, okay, I see you're sitting there and you're saying 7 years on a PC. That might be too long, and here's why. Yeah. And then you come up with an agreed upon thing, put that into our portal, and now it runs there forever.
Do not set the expectation that you are going to show up with the budget that needs to be run. Yep. You're going to show up with a draft of a budget. Yes. And you're sit down and say, all right, this is what we've got. This is our starting point. Let's make this work for you. And that is the value that they'll be able to come in and say, no, that doesn't work. We're going to have to, we're tight on cash every year at this time. We can't do that project. But we're tight on cash because we're always doing this big, massive project, and the paycheck's going to come in 2 months later, right? Yep. Well, that's when we can do all the big CAPEX, projects, because they're going to be flush with cash. So, take those budgets and start with a conversation in mind. Don't start with, hey, I did all the math, do this, all right? You're not the expert in their business. You don't know exactly what they need.
And you don't have to be.
And you don't have to be. Engage with your clients.
That's why we say we can turn anybody into a unicorn in under an hour, because we're not asking to be a business expert. You're already sitting in front of one. Mm-hmm. You need to learn from them and include them in the conversation. You don't have to be a highly technical engineer. You've got a whole shop full of them back at your MSP. Mm-hmm. You just need to facilitate a conversation that drives the success of your client. And that requires all three kinds of people to have conversations: sales, business, and technical, to get you where you need to go. But if you have one person overrunning the conversation with just technology or just sales or just business needs, then you're going to be losing out on what you could be. You need to have that larger conversation, and you're the facilitator for that. Don't try to be the expert in all things. Bring your side of things, your assets to the table. Let the business and the group that's in the room with you decide what the next step should be. Propose to them what you think a good idea is. Then adjust based upon their advice and their needs, and you will come out with an asset management process that is going to make you and your client a ton of money.
A win-win.
So they can afford that bulldozer someday.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much. This has been a great topic. I don't like talking about asset management, but I really want MSPs and IT providers to understand the context of asset management, what it means, and how to properly handle that topic. Think about the fact that you are just a small piece of a larger puzzle, and you'll be great.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. We'll see you guys all next week.
See ya.